SP Convo. SP Convo. Let's do it. Back with another one. Recent. Here we go. Yeah, back with another one. Same old, same old. Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf. The situation is still brewing. So I was thinking about this. The world is changing. And I said to myself, are black men in America soft? Do they have any fight in them? Are they too uppity? Have being raised in America made the black man the new white man? And hear me out. Hear me out. Carmelo Anthony had fought for his life. New footage came out, more clear footage, and it actually shows people surrounding Carmelo Anthony. He was surrounded by white kids and I guess some black kids. His friend Eddie Pera was there, who's neither white or black. His skin is yellow, so he's more of a Hispanic or Latinx individual. Nonetheless, for the most part, all those kids was born in America, so we're going to say they're American. Just by birth, they're American. But was Carmelo Anthony prepared for that situation? Nah, he wasn't prepared. Carmelo Anthony is a softie. He's raised in America. First world country with a lot of opportunities, a lot of benefits. And one of the benefits of being born in America is you have a military and you have police. And you have law. And America as a country ran off of words. Those words are law. So in America, you cannot take matters into your own hands, or you have to deal with the law. In America, it's the same law that keeps people complacent, hesitant, not quick to react, stutter step, second guess oneself. So how can you align that with hardship? How can you say black people in America really have it hard if, compared to other countries, black people in America don't have to worry about no bombs falling on their head? They don't have to worry about their government keeping them oppressed to the point where when it's curfew time, if you're outside past curfew, your government says fix them up, harm them, make them disappear. Black Americans, or black men, black people rather, in America don't have to worry about electricity going out for weeks to months. No running water, same, for weeks or months. no corrupted people that could take away from them, and there's no police officers you could run to that's not on the take, like in foreign countries. Carmelo Anthony have a country where people are in tune and intrigued into his situation. Protests, express their feelings, let it be known that they not happy with what took place. In other countries, I think people be hard pressed to even say a peep. It's more of a, oh, he did it, that's his consequence, life move on. Because in other countries, I don't think people's allowed to protest. I don't think people's allowed to even have cameras and record anything. I think media is not allowed. So I think the black man may be spoiled. Well, I don't know. Because recently there was a man that lived up to 100 years old. If he haven't passed away, God bless him, he's still living. And he's going to break it down from his understanding for living 100 years in the United States of America, the struggles of a black man. All my videos I'm about to play is fair use for educational purposes. So this 100-year-old man is going to break it down. While we have a black man born in this country, Carmelo Anthony, is about to do 35 years in prison for the accidental harming of Austin Reeves. Yeah, it was accidental. Because Austin Reeves, was aggressive. And he knew Carmelo's a smaller guy. And for Carmelo to go through all this, he's the MVP. Because right now he's in the prison cell, dealing with all that comes with the prison life. That's most valuable pressure. He's dealing with that. He's dealing with that. So let's get into this fair use. This get me excited because I think it's going to come to a conclusion where I can see why Carmelo Anthony made that decision of today. Because in his time, maybe that's through the formula. Let's get into it.
Small town in Georgia. Red dirt roads, pine trees taller than anything you've ever seen. Hot summers that made the air shimmer like water above the asphalt. Beautiful country. But beauty and cruelty have always known how to live together in the South. By the time I was old enough to understand the world around me, I already understood one thing. There were two worlds inside one, the white world and our world. And our world was always the smaller one, always the lesser one, the one with the broken desks and the hand-me-down books and the outhouse instead of the bathroom. My school was a single room, one teacher, 4 grades all packed together. The white children's school was 3 blocks away, red brick, a bell on the roof, a swing set in the yard. I used to walk past it every morning on...
So real quick, He already giving you a comparison of how black people had to go about things and how white people had to go about things. And for America to be a first world country, the way they had the blacks living, it's third world, man. From this picture right here, it don't look like America to me. It look like a foreign country. It look like Africa. Well, the pants is high. Maybe it's the Caribbean. Let's continue.
My way to my school, I never once went inside. Mama used to say, "You keep your eyes forward, James. Don't stare. Don't give nobody a reason." I was 7 years old, and I already knew what she meant. Don't give nobody a reason. That was the first lesson black children learned in those days. Before reading, before arithmetic. You learned how to make yourself small enough not to provoke the storm. When I was 9 years old, my father took me to town on a Saturday. It was a big day for me. I had saved up 15 cents doing odd jobs. I was going to buy a soda pop from the drugstore on Main Street. I remember walking in, the cool air, the smell of that place, syrup and wood and something clean, a long counter with stools, a white boy maybe my age sitting there, spinning on his stool like it was the greatest thing in the world. I walked up. The man behind the counter looked at me, didn't say a word, just pointed. There was a sign on the wall, white letters on a black board, whites only. My father put his hand up.
Wow, you see? Whites only. This boy is 7 years old having to deal with that. 7. Whites only. But yet and all, they say black people don't have much to deal with. And that's in the past. But this man who's speaking is 100 years of age. So when they say that's the past, this man is still here. He is the past, living in the present. Let's continue.
White letters on a black board, whites only. My father put his hand on my shoulder before I could say anything. He was gentle about it. He always was. But his hand was shaking. We walked out. I didn't get my soda pop. I know that sounds like a small thing, a child and a soda pop, but it wasn't small. It was the moment I understood, really understood, that those signs weren't just about water fountains and lunch counters. They were saying something about me, about what I was worth, about whether I deserved to exist in the same air as other human beings. I cried that night, quietly, into my pillow so nobody could hear. And then I stopped crying, because I learned pretty fast that crying didn't change the sign on the wall. I want to talk about fear, because people don't understand the kind of fear I mean. This wasn't the fear of darkness or spiders or failing an exam. This was a fear that lived in your chest every single day. A quiet, constant, humming fear, like a motor you couldn't turn off. When a police car came down our street, every man on that street went still. Every man. Didn't matter what you were doing, you went still. You kept your hands visible. You did not make sudden movements. You looked at the ground or you looked straight ahead, but you did not look them in the eye, because looking them in the eye could get you killed. I was...
You heard what he said? He was afraid. He was already programmed not to look at a police officer in the eye. Because you look at a police officer in the eye, that could get you killed. And look at all these black boys right here. Look, 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 look. Look. From all the way down here. Look. These black boys right here. Look at that. Poverty. Look at that. Look how they dress. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And to know, to have that mindset that whatever you do, you're doing it with extreme cautiousness because you're afraid. You are afraid.
Not look them in the eye, because looking them in the eye could get you killed. I was 16 when a man named Robert Earl, he lived 2 houses down from us, got beaten by a group of white men on the road outside of town. He'd been at a meeting, a church meeting, nothing more than that. They beat him so bad he couldn't walk right for the rest of his life. Dragged one leg from that day forward. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was questioned. The sheriff came by our neighborhood 2 days later, not to investigate, but to warn us. He stood in the street with his hat pushed back and said, "Y'all keep yourselves out of trouble." Called it our fault. I have to tell you about my brother William. He was 2 years older than me, tall, smart as anyone I ever knew. He used to read everything he could get his hands on. Newspapers, borrowed books, the backs of cereal boxes. He had this hunger in him for knowledge, for the world outside.
See that? Black man, eager to learn. And they say Americans is stupid. They say black people in America don't know how to read, don't want to read, don't want to do much of nothing. This man, 100 years of age, he's speaking. He going back. He going back from his childhood. He's walking. He's a walking history book. Let's continue.
Our little county. When the war came, World War II, William enlisted in 1943. He said, "James, if I fight for this country, they'll have to see us different when I come back. They'll have to." He came back in 1945, medals on his chest, a limp from a piece of shrapnel that never fully healed. He came back and he tried to register to vote. They turned him away, asked him to recite the entire state constitution from memory. An impossible test, a test designed to fail him. He went back the next week. They turned him away again. He went back a 3rd time. That night, 3 men in a truck pulled up in front of our house and threw a brick through our front window. My mother swept up the glass without saying a word. William sat at the kitchen table with his hands flat on the wood. He didn't move for a long time. Then he said, very quietly, "I killed men for this country. I bled for this country." And he stopped talking. He never talked about the war again. He never tried to vote again. Not until 1965. Not until the law finally made them let him. By then he was an old man. He died in 1971 without ever being treated like what he was. A decorated American veteran. A man. People focus on the big moments, the marches, the murders, the bombings. But I want you to understand what the daily life was like. Every single day. You stepped off the sidewalk if a white person was walking toward you. You stepped off onto the street and you waited for them to pass. If you didn't, you were uppity, and uppity could get you hurt. You could not try on clothes in a store. You could hold something up and guess at the size. If it didn't fit, that was your problem. You sat in the back of the bus.
Now you see the treatment. Now could you blame what? This is 1971 now, because the brother died in 1971. So let's just say 1971. The brother joined the army in 1943. Came home in 45. 1971 he passed away. So you mean to tell me American blacks don't have the right to be disappointed in the white people? You mean to tell me American blacks don't have the right to fight for the reparations? You mean to tell me the blacks in America don't have the right to say, hey, where's our opportunities at? His brother bled and killed people for America. And when he came back to civilian life, they didn't do nothing. They did not acknowledge him. That have to make him feel like a sucker. He had to feel used. So you can see why black Americans don't cater to whites. And white Americans know why. White Americans know why. They did them black people wrong. And it's sad that you have outsiders, foreigners, that have that white mentality only to agree with it because they feel like that's the only way they're going to have. Because these people don't know how to live in America. They ain't go through what this man is going through in America. Because I haven't went through what this man went through in America. And I'm being totally honest. Let's continue.
You could hold something up and guess at the size. If it didn't fit, that was your problem. You sat in the back of the bus, always. Even if the front was empty. Even if you were old. Even if you were carrying groceries. Even if your feet hurt. I worked for 40 years. Good, hard, honest work. Maintenance and repair. I could fix anything with 2 hands and patience. But I was paid half of what the white men doing the same job were paid. Half. And I was grateful for it, because the alternative was nothing. You know what it does to a man's soul, spending decades being grateful for half? It quietly breaks something in you. Something that...
And you heard what he said? Being grateful for something that he did his full diligence and got paid half for it. So ain't there a coincidence that the migrants of today is doing the same thing? So the migrants are basically going through the same thing the black man been doing since he was in America. So how can you say that black people in America are lazy and they're not grateful or having nothing when this man is basically counteracting anything that's being said negative about American-born blacks? Past tense and current. Past tense and current. So either it's a jealousy thing or just a person just want to speak that way just because the attention is not on them and it's on American blacks and they in America and they want the attention to be on them too. But this ain't your country. So in that sense, you ought to be grateful to be in America. To be able to save some coins up and send it back home to your country and build a house and a pool and a school and a hospital and whatever type of social enhancement things your country needs to push forward. This man is a walking history book. Let's continue.
It quietly breaks something in you, something that never fully heals. In 1955, I was 30 years old, driving back from visiting a cousin in the next county. Late at night, a dark road. A police car pulled up behind me with its lights on. I pulled over. My heart was doing something terrible in my chest. I rolled down the window and kept my hands on the steering wheel where they could be seen. Two officers. One came to my window. The other stood back by the trunk. The one at my window looked at me for a long time without saying anything. Then he said, "Where you think you're going, boy?" I was 30 years old, a grown man, with a wife at home and a baby daughter. Boy, I told him calmly.
A 30-year-old man still being called boy by a white man just for the color of his skin. Wow. Wow. And people want to come to the country of today. They want to come to the country today. And if they is to hear this man speak, they want to compare how he grew up in America with dealing with all that to what they currently had to go through without 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 putting all the variables in and saying, okay, this man living in a first world country going through all that. Well, in my country, I don't have to go through none of that, but I just don't have the money that this man in America is able to get. That's all it seems like they care about is the money part. Overlook everything this black man got to go through and say, oh, well, he's still living in a first world country. My country don't have none of this. That's being intentionally. That's when people do that, that's being intentionally. That's being a hater. That's being jealous. And you try to project it on the people that didn't have to go through that because you would say to yourself, I don't mind going through that as long as I can stack my money. But you heard what he said. It breaks something down in you quietly. So that's a lie. Them people will never be able to handle that. Because the minute they get too tough, they be saying, oh, I got a break. I could go back to my country. I don't got to deal with that no more. So the black Americans don't got no country to go to. They got to deal with that. Woo! The black American don't have no country to go to, so they have to deal with that. Other people have a choice. They can run back to their country. It's a lie? It's a lie? Tell me I'm lying. I'll wait. Let's get back to it.
A grown man with a wife at home and a baby daughter. Boy, I told him calmly where I'd been and where I was going. I kept my voice quiet and steady. My hands never moved from the wheel. He took my license and registration and walked back to his car. I waited 20 minutes on that dark road alone. He came back, dropped my papers on the window ledge, didn't hand them to me. Then he leaned in close enough that I could smell the whiskey on his breath, and he said, "Get out of here, and don't let me catch you on this road after dark again." I drove home. I pulled into my driveway and sat in that car for 15 minutes before I could make myself go inside. because I didn't want my wife to see my hands shaking. That was 1955. I think about that road sometimes. I think about
10 years before Martin Luther King got assassinated. 1955, United States of America. People still going through that.
all the men who drove a road like that and didn't make it home. I don't know why I did, and they didn't. I've never known. When the marches started, I was in my 30s, and I watched on a neighbor's television set those grainy black and white images. Young people, beautifully dressed, holding signs, walking in lines, being hit with clubs and sprayed with hoses. Children, some of them were children. I remember watching a girl, couldn't have been more than 15, being knocked off her feet by a fire hose, getting up, standing back up. I cried in front of that television, and I'm not ashamed to say it. My wife put her hand on my arm and said, "James, the Lord sees." I wanted to believe her. Some days I still do. I didn't march. I want to be honest about that. I had a family. I had a job I'd lose if I was seen. I was afraid. Ordinary, human, afraid. But those young people, they had the courage I couldn't find. They paid for our freedom with their bodies. I think about them every day, every single day. Hate is not just a feeling. Hate is a system. And a system extracts a price from the people inside it. I think about what was taken from us, not just the rights and the dignity, though God knows that was enough, but the smaller things too. The dreams William had to bury, the books he didn't write, the leadership he never got to offer, the full version of himself that never got to exist in this world. My mother, who cleaned white women's houses her entire life and retired with almost nothing, though she worked hard.
You hear what this man said? His mother cleaned white people's houses for X amount of years. And when she retired from it, she had nothing. She had nothing. Shame on them. The nerve of them.
Harder than anyone I have ever known. My daughter, who was brilliant, scholarships, a career in medicine, but who told me once that she walked into rooms for 30 years and watched people's eyes do a quick calculation the moment she entered, deciding, before she ever opened her mouth. You cannot measure what is taken when a human being spends their whole life being evaluated before they are heard. You cannot put a number on that loss. So why am I still here? What does 100 years teach you? It teaches you that evil is real. Don't let anyone tell you different. I've seen it. I've felt it. I've smelled the cruelty of men who looked at other human beings and felt nothing. That is real. But it also teaches you that evil does not win completely. Because here I am. Here we are, stubborn as roots. They burned churches. We built them back. They took our voices. We sang louder. They tried to make us small. And Lord knows they succeeded sometimes. Lord knows there were years, long, gray years, where I felt myself disappearing under the weight of all that hatred. But I am still here. I'm not telling you this story so you will pity me. I don't want pity. I have never wanted pity. I'm telling you because the truth matters. The truth always matters. And there are people in this world who would like the truth to be forgotten, who would like my granddaughter to grow up thinking things were never that bad, that it was all somehow exaggerated, or over, or irrelevant. It is not irrelevant.
Hmm. See? It's getting more clearer now. Let's get back into it.
The things I lived through are not ancient history. I am 100 years old, and I lived them. I have the scars, not on my body, but deeper, in the part of a man that doesn't show. What do I want for you, for whoever is watching this? I want you to understand that hatred is a choice. Every generation gets to choose, every single one. And I want you to understand what it means to truly see a person, not their skin, not the story you've been given about them before they ever speak, but them. The whole complicated, tired, laughing, grieving, hoping human being in front of you. That's all any of us ever wanted, to be seen. I'm tired now. These old bones have carried a long way. But I'm glad I told you. I'm glad someone knows. Take care of each other. That's the whole lesson.
Take care of each other. And that was beautiful. That was classic. That was history right there, man. Somebody continue to have that energy like him. You know, my grandmother passed away 2024. She was 94. She shared a lot of that understanding with me. But she also basically worded to me in the sense of I have to be respectful to Black Americans, because if it wasn't for Black Americans, I wouldn't be born here. So even with the new migrants here that don't want to have no respect for the Black Americans, that's where it becomes disrespectful. That's where arguments come. That's when tensions flare up. That's where people compare who they are to who you're not, and they compare countries to countries. And then still, a Black American going through all that in America, they still get the upper hand because this is still their country. And after going through all that, most Black Americans are still able to be rich and have a name and be powerful and live a good life. Where how many foreign people in their countries able to live a good life? Just being an average citizen, making something of themselves. Nah, more than not, they have to be part of some type of gang or some type of inside politics, or just, you know, going rogue, going very rogue, and just doing what they got to do. So it's a comfortability after the pain and suffering that Black Americans went through. There's a comfortability there. Now, do you think this man right here was a crybaby? Or he just was expressing, his journey in life? He was sharing his journey in life. Nah, he wasn't a crybaby. He's just sharing his journey. Expressing what it is. So, what do we do? This man just expressed his 100 years on this earth, what he went through being in America. So he said, take care of each other. Now, how can you do that? As easy as it said, you have some people that don't want to be taken care for. And you have some people that want to live their life a certain way. So let's get into this man right here, speaking about the hardship of a Black man. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
has always been the most economic. The black man in America has always been the most economically marginalized group of people in this. The black man in America has always been the most economically marginalized group of people in this
One more
country.
time.
The black man in America has always been the most economically marginalized group of people in this country. The black man is the most unemployed. The black man makes the least amount of money on these jobs, even when he's doing everything right, even when he's working his butt off. The black man is the one who gets fired on his day off. Last hired, first fired. So to really just sort of blanketly judge black men based on their ability to provide economically is, it on the surface in the beginning, kind of patently unfair. So I think that this has to be a very careful conversation, because you cannot have this conversation without providing the context of what black men are dealing with and what they're going.
Right. So, what he's saying on that note, if I'm just coming to this country and I was to hear this, and I'm comparing this man's talking points to where I just came from, I'm not gonna give him no respect, cause I'm gonna say, "Oh, look what I gotta do. I don't know nothing of this." But it's the same benefit that he has, cause America don't know who he is neither. So America not gonna focus on him unless he make America focus on him. Because you heard what he said, a black man could do everything right, and he still ain't gonna have his way. But somebody from abroad could come here, and they're gonna have their way, cause A-OK. Cause America gonna say, "Oh, he don't know the rules. He don't know. He just got here. He just wanna work. Let him be." Oh man, I know that is taxing on the brain. But one more time, I'm gonna play it back.
The black man in America has always been.
He said has always been. The black man in America has always been. No if, and, or buts about it. Has always been. And people got the nerve to say black people in America don't want nothing and are lazy. People always say black people in America don't want nothing and are lazy. And if I'm lying, say I'm lying. I'll wait. Let's continue.
The most economically marginalized group of people in this country. The black man is the most unemployed. The black man makes the least amount of money on these jobs, even when he's doing everything right, even when he's working his butt off. The black man is the one who gets fired on his day off. Last hired, first fired. So to really just sort of blanketly judge black men based on their ability to provide economically is, it on the surface in the beginning, kind of patently unfair. So I think that this has to be a very careful conversation, because you cannot have this conversation without providing the context of what black men are dealing with and what they're going through.
You see? Now, this man, he didn't say his age, but he about mid-50s, probably early 60s. That's 40 years younger than the first man that spoke. Now, another 40 years younger is Carmelo Anthony. So, see the pattern right there? Every 40 years, things change, but they stay the same. So, with Carmelo Anthony having a 3.7 GPA in high school, he was on his way to having a good life. And this would have me say, if none of these kids knew each other, other than Eddie knowing Camelo, is jealousy. Let's just say Eddie knew that Camelo was a 3.7 GPA student. Let's just say Eddie parents say black people are stupid, they dumb, they not smart. And Eddie catch wind of Camelo having a 3.7 GPA. Is Eddie going home telling his parents, Mom, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. There's black people smart in my school. There's a guy named Camelo who have a 3.7 GPA. I highly doubt he doing that. But you know Camelo's smarter than his ass. No way you're going to say black Americans are not smart. I'm not saying every black American is smart, but black Americans in general are smart. They're in the first world country. They have to have education. That's mandatory in the United States of America. Your kids have to go to school. Your kids not in school, people knocking on your door. They investigate where you at. So you gotta nip that in the bud and say America want their students dumb, deaf, and blind. Nah. Certain students make bad decisions and choices to drop out. But America don't force kids to drop out. What America does is put challenges out there for you. Because that's what life's about. If you don't have challenges there, you're not going to be motivated. You're not going to know what the trophy is. You're not going to know the value of the trophy unless you have some hurdles and some obstacles and some walls to break through to get that trophy. So, recently, Carmelo Anthony filed his appeal. And Carmelo Anthony has got a new legal team. So is Carmelo Anthony a crybaby for fighting, getting a new legal team? Are any of these two gentlemen that just spoke crybabies because they know the laws or they know the rules or they figure it out along the way? So now they're speaking about what took place. Because one thing that's hard to do is to be truthful, fruitful, upfront, personal, and somebody calling you other than your name because they're upset that you got all that history, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and they can't come and hijack that. They can't come and bamboozle you. They can't come and make you feel less than because they feel less than. So Carmelo Anthony had 3.7 GPA. All the other students probably felt less than. I know Eddie did. Eddie Para did. Because why would you tell the courts when you testify, why would you say you wasn't his friend? Other than the fact that, you know, he just committed a situation and he's hot. You don't want to be caught up that way. But this is America. They look for receipts. And they found receipts that you and him hung out. Maybe prior, you know, sometime prior before the track meet. But they still find out. So Carmelo got his new legal team. We're going to jump in there and see what it's about. Fair use, fair use, fair use. All the videos I play is fair use, fair use.
includes Russell Wilson II, who is a Dallas trial. Today, a new legal team was announced to represent Carmelo Anthony as he appeals his murder conviction. Earlier this month, a teenager was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the murder of Austin Metcalf at a track meet in Frisco last year. Anthony's legal team includes Russell Wilson II, who is a Dallas trial and appellate attorney. The team says they are serving pro bono and will pursue all available avenues of appeal. Today, a new legal team was announced to represent Carmelo Anthony as he appeals his murder conviction. Earlier this month, a teenager was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the murder of Austin Metcalf at a track meet in Frisco last year. Anthony's legal team includes Russell Wilson II, who is a Dallas trial and appellate attorney. The team says they are serving pro bono and will pursue all available avenues of appeal. Today, a new legal team was announced to represent.
All right. So we had to play that 2 times. He have his new legal team. So let's see how that comes about. Listen. Everybody know black people in America got it bad. Everybody trying to find their own way to survive. But in this country, just for surviving, you can get in trouble. That's what Carmelo tried to do. He tried to survive. And he got in trouble. Just for surviving. So you're not going to tell me that Carmelo Anthony wasn't afraid or scared. Because as that man said, he was raised to be afraid. He was scared. So yeah, black Americans don't have to worry about bombs falling on their head. Yeah, black Americans don't have to worry about somebody just kicking in their door, robbing their apartment blind, and it's the police that's doing it, in the sense of where, hey, you know what kind of country we live in? No, America don't have that, because even a police officer could go to jail for doing that. So America is a country ran by laws. But that does not mean that that's not hardship here. Because you can't grow your own food here in America. You have to go to the supermarket to get it. Your produce, your goods, your condiments. And if you don't have no money, stay out the supermarket. Because in America, you can't knock on your next door neighbor door and ask her for a cup of sugar, egg, wheat bread, sausage, and then ask her for lunch. Mac and cheese, smothered chicken with gravy, and asking for dinner. Because in this country, you knock on your next door neighbor and ask for anything. First, you got to be grateful. You got to be lucky, hopeful, if she even open the door. And depending on what city you live in, or what state you live in America, if you go to somebody's door, you may be greeted with holes in your body. So that's off the table. And if black men and youths of America are crybabies, so what? They're still going through it, as you see. That man was born in 1924. And this video took place 2 years ago to 2024. So that's 100 years. If he's still living, he's 102. Carmelo Anthony, 19 years of age. So what? Though black Americans is crying and complaining. Cut the check. Give them people their money. Because if it's not systemic racism, it's just the racism of your color is black and I'm white and I want you to do as I say. I want to be able to call you boy, even though you're a grown man with kids yourself, or maybe even being a grandfather. That's not happening. Now, of today, you have the next generation of young black men trying to make a change, put their grievance out, fighting for their spot in America, high or low. No matter which way it goes, they want to be heard and they want their spot. Fair use. Let's break this down.
Was conducted by the Democratic firm Navigator Research, radio to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly. That's down from 31% in 24 and 40% in 2020. Audience. It's because more Americans say they can't trust what they see on their TV screen, read in the newspaper, or what they hear on the radio. A 2025 Gallup poll found only 28% of Americans said they have a great deal or fair amount of trust in newspapers, television, or radio to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly. That's down from 31% in 24 and 40% in 2020. 7 in 10 adults said they haven't had much confidence or no confidence in traditional news reporting. Well, today we're learning even more about a specific group of people who are turning out major media outlets. A new focus group found that black men are turning to other forms of media for news at a high rate. The focus group was conducted by the Democratic firm Navigator Research. The firm allowed Phil Lewis, senior front page editor for the Huffington Post, to watch the focus group. Phil joins us now to share what he learned. Phil, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Based on the results that you witnessed and you found from this focus group, what results or what stood out most to you about this?
Yeah, so great question. The focus group was about black men who had voted for Trump in 2024 and either voted for Biden in 2020 or were just Democratic leaning. Pretty much a lot of what the focus group was about was the Trump administration expressing concerns, specifically about Trump's leadership, the economy and inflation. But what I thought was really interesting was their input and their responses regarding the media. They all pretty much said, hey, we don't really go to the mainstream media, so that's like CNN, and it's now to find our news. We're going on podcasts, we're finding independent creators online on platforms like YouTube, Joe Rogan, and Roland Martin, figures like these, to find their news. So I thought that was really interesting to me, and that's what I wrote the story about.
Phil, let me ask you, what were some of the main reasons, highlight them again if you could, that why these men said they were turning away from mainstream media to other forms of media?
Yeah, so...
Because they're doing their own thing. Because corporate America don't want to hire the black American man for having his degree and put him in a higher plateau of in the workforce of corporate America. So the social media give you a way to make your own money if you're good at it. So why not? Why not step away from the old mill and join a new thing? I don't blame them. That's what the education is there for. To think outside the box. If they could do it, you could do it. Anybody could do it. But thinking outside the box is always good. Thinking outside the box is always good. The main thing is, first you get the information from inside the box, and then you think outside the box. Don't never sell yourself short. Get that information, sit on it, figure it out, then you utilize it. Then you utilize it.
From mainstream media to other forms of media.
Yeah, so I mean, I talked to a group of of men from Georgia and Michigan and North Carolina. And one of the responses, one of the men who was from Atlanta actually had said, mainstream media seemed just too controlled. The large news outlets seemed to be more controlled in what they had to say, and they didn't feel as though they could trust what they were getting from these outlets. And so they preferred actually to focus on their local news outlets. Some of them mentioned that their local news outlets. One of the respondents from Detroit had said he like really focuses on his local Fox station there in Detroit. So local news was pretty trustworthy for them, and also these independent creators on these social media platforms.
It's good to hear that they trust local news. Let me ask you, I'm curious, in the results of this, did age play a factor? I mean, were older men one way and younger men a different way?
Yeah, so great question. So I did have I saw a range of people that were involved in this focus group, and surprisingly, for example, the 55-year-old said, "Hey, I go on YouTube to find my news, and I rely on social media." And so I think social media is it plays such a heavy role in kind of our lives now. Like even older adults, like I know my family, right? When I think about the older folks in my family, they're on Facebook all the time to find their news, right? So age actually didn't play that large of a role, and I think that's what made the entire story, like the piece of it. I want to focus on how they were responding to the news and where they were finding it.
We have about 30 seconds left. Was there anything that the men said there was anything that mainstream media could do to win back their trust?
I think the main thing was more so just.
Why he just don't say no? Why you just don't say that no? They're gonna go full fledged with doing the social media thing, and that's the old oligarch, and that's it. That's the dinosaurs. Now we with the new thing, and just leave it at that. Because those office jobs gonna be done away once this AI come through, and these kiosk machines and everything is ran by a computer chip with coding. That's it. That's it.
Focusing on issues that they care about. But that was pretty broad. I mean, that could be anything. But they were mostly saying that, hey, we want to be represented. We want our stories to be told kind of in the media. I think they find that through local.
Basically, let it be told. You know what I'm saying? Let it be told. So yeah. If being a crybaby means speaking out for every little thing until you have every little thing that you want settled and set in stone, so you can have your own communities locked in and push forward, and no more worrying about the oppression or worry about somebody just undermining you just cause. Yeah. Let them be a crybaby. Because it's their ancestors who's still going through it, because that man is considered an ancestor. He's 100 years old. He's a relic. He lasted 100 years old. He's seen one time to another. From 1924 to now, man, he's seen red dirt roads to established buildings to, woo, God bless him. So, that's what it is, man. Hope you like the show. Hope you find it interesting. Leave some comments. Put some likes in there. Don't forget SP Convo. SP Convo. I'm the guy that got the supply. And my supply is a tad bit different. I put a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then I put my on it. I'm out.